Welcome back to the Rare Element Podcast. I'm your host, Lucy Vaughn. Today, I'm sitting down with three extraordinary creators behind the film American Magic: Poke Runyon, Maximillian Paul, and Johnny Royal. This film blends ritual, myth, and the raw spirit of America in a way we don't usually see on camera. It's bold, it's symbolic, and it asks real questions about identity, transformation, and the unseen forces that shape our lives. In this conversation, we are exploring how the film came to life, the vision, the craft, the challenges, and the magic that moved through the process. If you're drawn to stories that expand the mind and push past the surface, then this one is for you. Let's get into it. Hi, Poke. Hi, Johnny. Hi, Max.
Hello, Lucy.
Hello.
So let's begin. What was the initial spark for the American Magic movie, and where did it originate?
Well, I guess that's I'll catch that ball. Yeah, anyway, back in 1969, I discovered, as a result of an illness, a sort of a shamanic kind of thing, I discovered how medieval ceremonial magicians and Renaissance ceremonial magicians, how they actually summon spirits to visible appearance. And they did it by staring at their reflections in magic mirrors. And they utilized something that we now call the Troxler effect. And that is, if you stare at your face in a dark room with candlelight in a mirror, and you stare at your face, and especially if you conjure something, while you're doing it, your face will black out. And then I'll go into the scientific aspect of it later if you want me to, but then another face, your face will black out, and another face, or as I said in the first video I made about it, someone or something will come back and in the mirror. And children have been doing this at Halloween for years and years and years. They go into the bathroom and light a candle and stare at their face and scream, "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary," and then they have this effect, and it scares them, and they run out of the bathroom. Kids have been doing this for gosh knows how long, but this effect actually, if you prepare yourself with self-hypnosis and a little bit of Tratakam yoga, and you prepare yourself to use this effect, you can communicate with spirits. And because these spirits are all portions of your mind. Crowley said that all the goetic spirits are all portions of the human brain. But that's not. The brain is the hardware. The mind is the software. So he should have said the mind, but Crowley wasn't computer wise at that time, and he wasn't much of a Jungian either. He was more Freudian, and so he said the brain. But the brain's where they come from, and that's what the receiver for them. But they're all portions of your brain, and the big secret And the big secret that we push in the film all the time, continually bring home in the film. The human mind is a miniature of the whole universe. And Hermetic philosophy, the philosophy that we follow, is that the human mind and body are microcosms of a macrocosm of the greater universe. And I don't mean just our universe, our little universe here, I mean the whole universe. And then not only the whole universe, but the multiverse, multiple dimensions. So this gets to be a very heavy thing. And you can acquire a lot of wisdom, and I don't know how much wisdom I've acquired. I feel like I have, but people who see or read our books and see our movies, they can judge how wise I am. I don't know. Anyway, that's how this thing got started, and Johnny, ran across us, and he decided that this was something that he should make a documentary movie out of, at what we were doing. And we said, okay, we've made several of them ourselves, so we'll give you a crack at it. And so he did. What you see in American Magic, it is a beautiful film, and in fact, it's an art film. But then magic is an art, so that's how it got started.
Okay, what kind of magic would you film, the type of magic that was being portrayed in this movie, and how it applies to cultural today?
Well, it's the magic of Solomon from the Bible. And Solomon was, according to the Bible, Solomon was a Hebrew, and a Hebrew who worshipped Yahweh, or what some of the Christians call Jehovah. Actually, the real archaeological and historical, if you will, Solomon was not a Hebrew. He was a Canaanite. He was a pagan, and he didn't worship Yahweh. The pagan Phoenicians and Canaanites of the Holy Land in Solomon's time were they were worshipers of one God, but they weren't what you call monotheistic. They worshiped one God whom they called El, and then his pantheon of gods and goddesses were referred to in the Bible as the Elohim. And the Bible, especially Genesis, the Bible partakes of both the Phoenician gods and pantheon, and also it was modified to favor Jehovah, but Solomon himself was obviously a worshiper of El, and El's daughter and his son, because were Baal and Astarte, and so we founded the Temple of Astarte, that was how it started. And the first spirits we summoned were Barl and Astarte. And by the way, those two spirits were the first spirits that traditionally that Faustus, the medieval magician, that he summoned. And Richard Burton and Liz Taylor did a beautiful film on that, and of course Elizabeth Taylor played Astarte, and so that's what Paul and Astarte eventually, and this is something that I suppose would be very disturbing to some Christians, but eventually Paul and Astarte eventually evolved into Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Eventually, that is some of the things you learn, and as you progress in this. But in the Magic of Solomon, all of these 72 spirits of Solomon, and some of them are demons that we are, or so-called demons that we are familiar with, like Asmodeus and Astaroth. And Astaroth is Astarte, and Baal is Baal, and these spirits were all pagan gods and goddesses that were translated into demons by the rabbis and by the priests and even by the imams, because this Solomon's magic is practiced by Hebrews, Christians, Muslims. It's all the Abrahamic religions all practice it, and in one way or another. And so that's the kind of magic we practice, and then that leads on into other forms of magic as we get more advanced, celestial magic, and based on astrology, and geomancy, which we did a demonstration of. Remember in the film Geomancy, we did a demonstration of that, and that reveals the secret of the Urim and the Thummim in the Hebrew tradition, as they're like dice. They were fluorite crystals, probably, which are tetrahedrons, and they have 6 sides, and they have the geometric characters, and it's kind of like, they were made originally out of huckle bones of split-foot animals. You heard the expression, the shamanic expression, roll them bones, and that's what. But in Israel, they were fluorite crystals, and so we've resurrected that, and that anyway, and we demonstrated that in the film.
Yeah. One of the things I really liked about the film was the depth that you guys were able to show that the OTA has gone into, that kind of goes predates religious context into like the deeper elements of Egyptian philosophy, and kind of bringing that more to, I think, the culture and times now, especially to like the younger generations. I think we're in a time where a lot of people are looking outside of religious terms for some type of connection to spirit, to the divine. And I think this film does a great way of capturing that. And also with like showing the members of the OTA, their experiences, their transformative experiences through working magic, how that has affected them in their lives. And I think that's a really awesome thing you guys captured in this movie.
Yeah.
Was that your intentions to do?
Yes. Actually, I'll throw that over to Johnny, because, Johnny is the framer, the director, obviously, of this project. And certainly his vision is what guided and crafted this beautiful piece. And so I'd throw that question over to Johnny.
Yeah, the approach from a directorial standpoint was to first really become familiar with the material that had been written, and there had been so much. So initially we were talking about doing this as a feature film, but it ended up working better out as a TV series, because with a feature film, you just have one straight long narrative, where this has so many different moving parts to it that can fall underneath an overarching narrative. So when we looked at, how do we want to present this material? My biggest influences are silent films, such as Fritz Lang's Dr. Mabuse the Gambler, and then moving on to something like The Seventh Seal with Ingmar Bergman, where there's you kind of let the picture speak for itself. There doesn't need to be running dialogue or a lot of exposition on top of it. So I wanted to tap into that and really give the audience something to experience as a feeling rather than telling them what to feel. So we focused on looking at all of the different ceremonies and the things that Poke and Max as writers and Poke as the creator were willing to let the cameras have access to. And by doing that, we were able to put together this really beautiful, as Poke mentioned, art piece that is laid out in a TV series in basically 4 chapters. And that inspiration came from his book on the Magic of Solomon. So, we really focused in on how we were going to light the ceremonies, on how, are we going to shoot them in 24 frames, which is real human time that we're in now? Are we going to do some slow motion to give some dramatic effect? So that's kind of the route we took with it. And it turned out beautiful and amazing. I think that it achieved the goals that all of us collectively had set out to do, which is to show the world that, this long-standing tradition that Poke had created really defines what we called the series American Magic, for the Western esoteric occult traditions that stand as a backbone for people that are looking for something a little bit more than the predominant monotheistic religions in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
I think, Lucy, if I may, one of the things that's very important to talk about with this specific project is that, as Pope mentioned, Pope produced several other documentaries or other pieces, explanatory pieces in regards to the OTA a while ago. They're very famous. I mean, every occultist has seen the Magic of Solomon, Pope talking about the Dark Mirror. Whether they've seen it on the DVDs or they've seen a cheeky YouTube upload. Everyone has seen this. It's actually how I was introduced to the OTA many years ago. And what's important to say is that this series is a continuation of those projects. So it's not, for instance, like an updated reworking of the same material either. This is very much an addition to, an expansion of, and a celebration of everything that's happened so far and extra. So it's like, I guess you could say it's not a rehashing of the material. It's not a replacement for the previous documentaries either. It is very much in the series of works that that Poke and the OTA has been putting forward. And so you'll notice, for instance, in this series, there is a sort of an Egyptian emphasis, which is an artifact of the fact that we're talking about the Krater Rapoa, which is ostensibly meant to be an Egyptian initiatory system, which Poke selected for, reworked into the grades that the OTA uses. But it's also important to note that the tradition that of the OTA is a Canaanite tradition. You could say it's kind of an Egypto-Canaanite tradition, but it's very much the mythos in which the OTA sits is that Phoenician Canaanite tradition. And the Egyptian emphasis is a result of the Krata Rappoa research, a lot of the work that I've done to systematize things. And so it's sort of important for people to understand that when they go into it, so as not to be confused as to think we suddenly swapped out one pantheon for the other. This is a celebration of both. You could say it's like during the period of, say, the New Kingdom, the Canaanite and the Egyptian pantheons, I mean, they mixed pretty constantly anyway. And they became extensions of each other. And it's why, like, in discussing magic of that period of time, oftentimes people talk about both the Egyptian and Chaldean, that is to say, like the Babylonian or the Canaanite. These same magical methods permeated that entire region, and their pantheons were constantly mixing, sometimes syncretizing, that is to say one god is considered to be the same or analogous to another. But during that period of time, about 1500 BC, going up to about 1000 BC, when the Egyptian and the Canaanite traditions were really mixing, they would be almost like expanded on each other. So these, it's just, I know it's a lot to explain, but it's like, this is, it's just important to understand that our tradition is steeped in that Canaanite tradition, but our initiatory system is based in that Egyptian, ostensibly Egyptian Krata Rappoa system. And that's important to note.
Okay. Are there any memorable moments you guys had while making this film?
Several.
Some that we liked, some that we enjoy remembering, and some we'd rather forget.
Yeah.
What about any funny ones?
So some of the funny ones, one was we had to shoot some green screen stuff, and we were, which turned out beautiful. And that goes to the post team, but for credit. But it was sunny out, and then right as we're about to start, the weather drops down, and the clouds come overhead, and so our whole lighting scheme kind of goes off. And then the post process was it had its own moments in itself. I mean, 16-hour days for months in a row. And
don't forget, during the green screen filming, of course, the temperature was almost Arctic. And you'll see in the film myself completely bald shaven, Egyptian priest, and Justin, poor Justin, who's the other Egyptian priest with me. He was frozen. This, like, you would not know. He completely was like poker face when the cameras were rolling, but as soon as the cameras are off, he was a shivering icicle. This poor Justin was freezing to death during the film.
It actually worked out for the best too, because where that laid into in the series, talking about the young student, that he's going through these trials, and he's basically, they're testing his will to be steadfast and continue on the journey. And so you can see him shaking in the series on camera, which it came across when we laid it in that, wow, this is great acting, but it wasn't. It was real. I mean, as Max had said, it was freezing out, and they basically had just skirt garments on, and yeah, poor Justin, but what a champion too. And same with Max in that part.
What better way to portray suffering than the real deal, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was genuine. Yeah.
Did you plan that one, Johnny, under wraps?
What's that?
Yeah, I said, did you plan that under wraps to make it?
No, I didn't, because I was freezing behind the camera, and I had I think this sweatshirt on and an overcoat and a scarf on, and I was cold. So
it ended up being a little priestly as well, because I was dressed up as this Sem priest and I was trying to school Justin on tumor breathing to keep the body warm while he was completely like half naked, freezing to death.
Oh, goodness. And where did you film the green screen at?
We filmed it at the same location at the temple in Silverado on Poke's property. It was normally you do that inside of a controlled environment, but there were so many shots that we had to do. The challenge with something like this is that you don't know what someone's going to say on camera. You do to a certain extent of what their outline of the questions are going to be, but we were asking everybody between 20 to 40 questions, and then it's from a production standpoint, it's like, okay, we got to switch stuff around really quick, and I'm talking like overnight for the next day, and say like, okay, we need to grab a shot of a bird, we need to grab the clouds, we need to add some more shots in front of the green screen, we need to have some things implemented ceremonial wise, incense, someone carrying swords, different things like that. So those were challenges, and you start to get into this from a production standpoint, like this kind of crazy mindset. You become obsessive, like, okay, I can't miss anything here. And how do I make it so that that I believe what everybody's doing? Because if you can get past me as the director, if I believe what the cast is doing and what they're talking about, then it becomes a truth through the lens to the director and the producers, which is then it goes out to the world. And nothing that is in the series that did not pass that test is in the series. So it's a very, very fine-tuned process of, we really have to push down. I mean, Max, you can remember some scenes where, it's like, we got to do it again. We got to do it again, do it again, do it again. And it gets tiring after a while. And then you can see it on, the people in front of the camera's faces too. Like, okay, when is this going to be over? It's over when, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what it has to be, because I mean, Poke has put so much, he's dedicated his life to this, and it should match the value of the quality of his work. And I believe it does. And as Max said, it's not a new thing. It's just, it's a continuation going forward of what's already been established.
Yeah. It's not a replacement for what was. It's like a celebration and continuation of what is.
You know what? They told me to be quiet. They said power is dangerous. So you know what? I made it look good. Everything I create begins with one belief: that beauty and power were never meant to be separated. That desire isn't dirty or dangerous. It's divine. They said original sin was the fall of mankind. But it turns out it was just the rise of woman. I learned that good was just another word for small. I don't do nice. I do honest. I do beautiful. I do whatever the hell I want. Every collection I create, every word I write, is a middle finger wrapped in velvet. If that makes you uncomfortable, good. You're waking up, dear. Babe, this collection is for those who dare to feel deeply and live without apology. If you know what that feels like, then you know what? You already belong here. This is Original Sin, where power gets dressed in red and truth always looks better in heels. Visit LucyVaughn.com to discover Original Sin, the collection, the movement, the services, the awakening. and see what they tried to warn you about. How did it work with budget, like resources? Did you guys have to get really creative on any decisions?
Yes. We had to, really look at like things that are very important that I will never short are quality of people that are working on the project. So people that were on the team for principal photography, which is when you're shooting, and then on the post side of the team, those things you never can work around, because if you don't have good people working on it, it's that saying, you get what you pay for. And the same thing goes with the equipment too. I mean, we were shooting on a 2-camera multicam setup, which is, so if you have a subject matter here and you have 2 cameras here, so that way you can multicam between the cameras. So we were on the Alexa LF and the Red Dragon, and then the lenses we were using were Cook anamorphic Super Flare Plus lenses, which are they shot the new Star Wars on that. They shot the new movie Dune on those lenses. So I really wanted to bring a cinematic vision to this, and not just have a little camera system and a crew that doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, most of these guys that were on the crew, their credits are just incredible, from principal photography to post. Where we had to really crunch and do the heavy lifting was that, I was directly involved in kind of spearheading the post process. And as I mentioned, and Max jumped in as well too. And we were doing 16-hour days. I mean, start to finish, minus, having to be human and eat every now and then and go to the bathroom. But, yeah, now I don't have them on, but I'm in my studio room now, and there's a light on. But I was in the dark for 16 hours a day doing this, and I have glasses now from just staring at the screens for so long, and and then you start kind of having fun with it too. It's just like when you're going through and you're going frame by frame by frame, and you get these funny shots of like. I would send them to Max of like, if Max was on camera and I pause a frame and his mouth's open, I would take a quick picture and I'm going to say, this is going to be the front of the cover. And you have to have fun with it, because it becomes a very, difficult process. So nothing was sacrificed as far as quality goes. Just willpower was added into really pushing into the finish line to make it consistently beautiful and appealing and to tell the story. And going back to something you said earlier too, what I found most interesting was the members that we were able to speak to in film. I mean, what a diverse group of people. I mean, you can't find that in any other type of organization, whether it's a fraternity or a sorority or any, a coven or anything else like that. I mean, we had a sociologist that's part of the Church of the Hermetic Sciences in the OTA, a psychologist, people that own shops and sell magical supplies. And I mean, every single person that we talked to on camera, I mean, just the intellect alone and their way that they could speak fluently, not there was no real pausing of having to think about this. This is something that everybody on camera that we talked to was so passionate about. And then that goes back to Poke. It leads back to, what a great, there is a divine spark that Poke was able to pull down, obviously create this order and keep it going, since 1969 or 1970. But it was a great time. It's one of my proudest moments of a director of the things that I've worked on.
Yeah, that's something I love to stress. Is the community and the membership of our order is impressive. It is truly impressive, the caliber of people that Poke has been able to draw to the order and keep are, I genuinely think, a true cut above. Really astute, scholarly, brilliant, bright, wonderful people who make this an extraordinarily vibrant and, frankly, very healthy community. And that's the thing that whenever I talk about this in any kind of interviews, is I like to stress the concept of community. And one of the things I've said many times is that in olden days, and that is to say before the last few decades, 50 years, a secret society existed in many ways to impart certain knowledge. And community was relatively a given until the modern age. But it's sort of flipped on its head now. That information, knowledge, and information, right or wrong, flows like wine, and we're all intoxicated by it. But community has become increasingly more and more difficult to find where you really belong. And the one thing I've found in the OTA is that sense of belonging, that sense of community, that sense of being a part of something wonderful, constructive, creative, celebratory.
And what comes to mind as you're saying this is I remember in the movie they're talking about Paracelsus and the rose. And I remember you, Poke, talking about in the last interview we did about how your desire for the OTA is to help blossom that inner divine spark within everybody, and I think through this documentary, you can really see that, like through the OTA members when they're talking about how like that spark has really been, you can see it, the proof's in the pudding. It's right there in the movie. And also what you were saying, Johnny, that, sorry, I just have blank right now. What you were just saying, Max, about like, I think community nowadays is so crucial, especially when everything's becoming so digitalized. And I think more and more people are feeling disconnected. So being able to really have that spark and that connection and creativity, I don't think there's anything really out there that actually caters to like to bring out the true essence of people that they kind of get masked over throughout life.
Yeah. And
well, I don't think that's the one thing that AI is not going to have. It is not going to have that divine spark inside it. There are lots of people that want AI to have that divine spark inside it, but it's not going to get it.
Yeah, and that's further to that point, something that Poke has actually stressed to me many, many times, and will happily stress again and again, is that initiatory procedures, initiatory societies can not be done online. Initiations are something that you experience in person. You can't just have a download of knowledge and expect to have the same experience, the same revelatory and initiatory experience as someone who has physically done that in person. An initiatory society, an initiatory system must be in person. It must be embodied and felt as a live, in essence, performance for an audience of one, the initiate, as they go through. This is how the lessons are. It's like an initiatory experience is not knowledge imparted to the mind. It is knowledge and awareness and enlightenment imparted to the body so that the mind can forever be informed by the allegories and metaphors that are expressed in the initiatory ritual. This is not a sort of thing that can be done online or at a distance. This is a personal, communal, and important, vital, living thing.
And as I said, AI can't do it. People have to do it. Human beings.
Yes, this is a human experience.
Johnny, so with the rise of streaming platforms and niche audiences, Where do you see American Magic fitting in today's film market, and who's your target market on reaching viewers?
Well, as far as where it fits in across the world globally, because this is a global distribution. It fits in with. There's so much content that's coming out there now that it's focused on the supernatural, and it's trying to do what this is actually doing. This is the real deal. But as Poke mentioned earlier, that these aspects, these lessons that you learn, they're part of your conscious mind, and so you have all these different shows coming out that are trying to kind of dig into this type of material. So it's got a large base viewer platform there already for it, and going forward with it, into the world, it's something that I think that the audience is the world itself, because I can't tell you how many times we interviewed, I think close to 21 people total we had on camera during this the filming of this, and the one thing that kept coming across from every single person was that they were just looking for something more, something deeper, something was calling them to it, that they were being called to it, and we're seeing that there's a big reversal of what people are looking for, I think, including myself too. I mean, I've been a practicing occultist. I'm a member of the church. I'm a member of the order. Even when my wife was pregnant with our daughter, that's when we were initiated, and it inspired us so much that we actually named our daughter Astarte. That's her name. So it's something that I think, over time, that people are looking for a return to the ancient ways, because there is purity there that you cannot find anywhere else. Not in a Catholic church, not in a mosque, not in a temple. There is purity, and you could see it if in episode 1 of this. It's called Genesis. The beginning of this. We filmed a ceremonial, a seasonal rite, and the as a director, you when you do so many projects, you feel energy off of people, and people can do that obviously without that, but I feel it in a different way. And as soon as we said action and it went into it, the jovial faces and people talking, I mean, it was like that, like something clicked on inside of their minds and inside of their souls. And it was something that it's hard to put into words, but something just came alive that was kind of like a wow moment. Like I'm shooting like an A24 film right now. It felt like, and it was just, and it wasn't acting, it was real, and it was powerful, and it was unforgettable.
What's next after this project? Are there any follow-ups or spin-offs?
Well, we've been considering doing a film connecting witchcraft and Solomonic magic, because, quite frankly, and the witches, well, some of the Wiccan people don't like this idea, and they've even come out against it. But it is a fact that modern witchcraft we have today, the Gardnerian tradition and the so-called Alexandrian tradition, were both created by Solomonic ceremonial magicians And we just published our book on our magic, the book of Solomon's Magic, which
where is it?
we got one. Oh, I think we got one down right.
Oh, we do. There it is.
We do right down here. Yeah. And here's the book of Solomon's Magic that we published, and it's available at
PokeRunyon.com.
PokeRunyon.com. You can buy it. But here's the important thing for our next project.
It's on one of the first pages.
I'll find it.
There it is.
There it is. This is the Ostia medallion, and it shows three-form Hecate on one side and Solomon stirring a cauldron on the obverse side of this bronze medallion from the 2nd century AD. 2nd century AD, and I'll read you the caption underneath it. The Ostia medallion, a bronze 2nd century common era, contemporary with the Testament of Solomon, and the triple goddess form of Hecate on the face, and King Solomon stirring a cauldron on the obverse. Hecate is listed as the demon and Empesagos in the Testament of Solomon. That's a grimoire. This artifact confirms the Greek connection in Solomonic magic and its connection to witchcraft. We should remember that the two founders of modern witchcraft, Gerald Gardner and Alex Sanders, were both Solomonic ceremonial magicians. Now, we're in development stage, let's say, on a film that will show the creation of that will be filmed. That'll be back in the 11th century or so, where we're going to show the creation of this thing, and then we're going to go up to modern times and show how it developed from these two threads. And this is important because Gardnerian witchcraft still maintains its original form in England. But here in the United States, it suffered from the wave of wokeism, and I won't go any further than that because I don't want to be politically incorrect or anything like that. But let's say we need to get this thing straightened out, and we'd like to make a film documenting this whole business.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we'd like to do.
Okay. What do you think is the dynamic with the occult and film? Because I feel like the occult world and film industry go very hand in hand together.
I could answer that, but I think Johnny is better fielded that question.
Johnny, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it goes back as far as film goes back. I mean some of the film industry most people don't realize was actually created in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they had what were called Nickelodeons, and they were meaning a nickel theater. So you had a lot of steel workers and coal miners that they would just take put a nickel in, and they could watch these running motion pictures. And throughout the history of film and even television, a lot of the people involved, from the actors to the directors, have been involved in the occult. And what, from my standpoint as a director, what I'm doing is my own form of magic, because I am capturing something, through elements of magic, light and sound and things that are much older and still not even understood by the scientific community. And then we're bringing that to life, and we're getting it, around the world through, scientific methods and algorithms. But the end result is that you're presented a story, and that story, it can be very transformational and change your life. And one of the best quotes I've heard about how film and TV and magic intertwine is that they're all the byproduct of the pursuit of truth. And that's what really makes it intertwined. They're all one thing. So film and TV and magic and the occult are all one medium. It's just like having, you have a canvas, and what are you going to paint on that canvas? And for example, one of my favorite scenes in any film is, from my favorite director, Fritz Lang, from the silent film era, is when they get around the table and they're doing this seance. And this is in the early 1900s. They're filming this in black and white. So it's been there from the beginning of the motion picture industry. And it's going to continue to grow stronger and stronger because, with American Magic, and when you look at other films, like I love Ari Aster's films, Hereditary, Midsummer, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring a type of ritual alive into the film, which, as Max said, that's a very personal and in-person thing. However, what you can get and take away from it with magic in film and television is the inspiration to go and find that for yourself, to go and say, hey, I something resonated with me in American Magic, and I want to find out more about what the OTA is. What is it going to do for me? And the only way I'm going to be able to find that out from watching the TV series or from watching any other type of film that touches on this subject matter is I have to go out and seek it for myself, be there in person, go through the initiations, and at a certain point, it becomes ineffable because it becomes something very personal to you that you can't even put into human language, but it carries through for your days and for the rest of your life, and you pass it on to your children, and they pass it on to their children, and it continues to grow. And I think that in film and TV right now, we're seeing a giant revival with magic and the occult because, people that maybe aren't as astute in, making occult films or making occult television, they could have the greatest scripts in the world, but if you don't have that experience yourself, there's going to be a little piece missing that, you could say, like, in Hereditary, for example, and I love Hereditary, that film, but, there are these little sigils that are kind of just hidden in the background on these walls, and like, Zazas, Zazas, Nasata, Nada, Zazas, and it's hidden there. But it's brilliant because it makes people look it up. Like, what does this actually mean? And then it takes them down a wormhole, and then it's like, oh, wow, this is what
that Zazas thing. That's Aleister Crowley's version of Jesus, Nestor, Jesus. It's
exactly.
It's take what is Jesus, Nestor, Jesus into something darker.
Yeah, exactly.
What's even more funny is last night when we were arranging this interview today, I was watching Disney's Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. Mm-hmm. And I texted Max the picture. It's in there. It has the Book of Astaroth and Astarte, and they have the magical star on the line, and they're trying to find that star to perform the magic. So that's funny how you're talking about that and bringing it all together. And then I think that also ties into Freemasonry, right? Walt Disney was a Freemason, right? In the magic world and all that stuff.
Disney was not a member of the Freemasons. He was what was called a member of the De Molay Order of De Molay, which is it is a youth order of Freemasonry. So you can enter when you're age 14, and then at 18 you can become a Freemason. And he was a member of the Frank Lloyd chapter of DMLA, which I'm also an honorary lifetime member of that chapter. My son is a DMLA, but it's interesting because, you know, when you look at even Freemasonry goes back into, you know, a lot of it comes from the Hermetic tradition and Rosicrucianism, and those things go back further. They go back further. They go until you eventually get to, you know, what we have in American Magic and what Poke and Max were talking about, you know, system of magic with an initiatory skeletal structure of you know, Egyptian rites, in a sense, with other things included into that. So, you know, Disney from the beginning to, you know, before it went woke, and I won't get into that either. But there was tons of, I mean, lots of witchcraft, lots of magic, lots of occult stuff. I mean, incredible things. I mean, even I have a giant enlarged painting of a cartoon of Mickey Mouse opening and holding a meeting for DMLA, which is a very rare cartoon. But yeah, it's just like you said, you found, you know, that book of Astaroth in that Disney frame. I mean, it's hidden everywhere. Even the park, Disneyland Park, it's structured and built like a Masonic lodge. The number 33 is prevalent. Last degree in the Scottish Rite system of Freemasonry. So there's a lot of things that are hidden in there. People are not being afraid anymore in film and TV to step forward and say, like, you know, I want to present this because there is something real here and truthful here, and it's not an evil thing. You know,
No.
even say
if I can comment on that too.
Yeah.
There's certainly a great deal of pushback to suggest, and you know, anything occult equals immoral or evil, and that is simply not true. We talk about
unfortunately, that's been a Hollywood formula.
Yeah, but it's also interesting to note that the connection between mysticism and magic and performance, acting, performing, production, and things like that, that's not new. Actually, the separation of performing from mystical things is far newer. When we think about ancient performing and acting, etc., we think about the theaters of Greece. Usually, we think about their various plays and some of the famous playwrights from the classical Greek era. But it might be interesting to think about a question that I came across recently. Where are the theaters in Egypt? Where are the theaters in Canaan? They're in the temples. The performing these passion plays of various gods and myths, these were spiritual, religious experiences, and to that they maintain. Many people inform their own worldviews from metaphors learned through the stories told through film and books and television. I mean, it would be one thing for me to say to someone of my generation and talk about biblical legends, but the power of saying, you know, remember what Gandalf said in The Lord of the Rings, or remember what, like these lessons come through these archetypes that continue to permeate our fiction and our stories and help us navigate our place in the world. One of the most important things about I could say one of the most important things in the magical tradition overall is the re-ensouling of the world with magic and mystery, to mythologize the world around us so that we as human animals can find that spark of beauty and magic in our everyday life. That's what this connection between the performing and media and magic, it's about re-ensouling our daily world, our daily lives. What do you think about that, Johnny?
I agree. I think that magic and the occult are simple. Simply they're humanity's oldest ways of storytelling, and film and TV. They let us, translate those ancient symbols into modern emotion, and that's what we're trying to get to here. And it is kind of taking a broader worldview of ensouling everything into that, and then presenting that to the audience. And I think that people are seeing that with American Magic. I mean, the comments that we're getting are, this is so beautiful, and I had no idea. And that's the kind of reaction we're looking for. I had no idea.
Lucy, I want to do a little magic here. What I want to do is I want to create under the image of Max Paul. I want to create MAXPAUL.
Voila.
Max Paul and Poke Runyon. That's okay. You can put them both there. That. Thank you. See that now. That's magic. I went ahead and did it, and it doesn't matter whether it doesn't show up here like it did on the rose. When I did a little formula on the rose in my hand. Remember in the film, you saw those 4 letters. That's the Gollum Tetragrammaton in Phoenician in the film, and we did it. I insisted that we do that we have that formula visualized. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear me say, left machine tau, and then the rose grows up.
In fact, that was one of the I think, Johnny, you told me that was one of the most impactful sequences when people were going through this, specifically even on the post-production side of things. That was one of the most spectacular sequences that we worked on, was the growing of the rose out of Poke's hand, and that really is quite I remember you first showing me some of the work on that. It blew me away. It was beautiful.
It blew everyone away. I mean, and not just the beauty and the visualization of it, but because people that had never seen anything like this or read anything about magic or studied anything about magic, they understood it. And they, comments ranging from, this feels interesting to me. I haven't felt something like this, or I understand now. I understand, the line that Poke says, I cannot see your rose and you cannot see mine. But if we hold out our roses together, like that sequence, it was such an impactful sequence. And that was the catalyst that kind of started, the run through narrative of what American Magic is really about, the whole series.
Yeah. When we first started this project, that was what Poke had in mind. That sequence had to be first, and it had to be right. That was the first, I think, creative direction from Poke, was that sequence had to be first and it had to be right. Yeah. That's it. That's really, it's extremely important. Actually, way more important than even, I think, it's just right up front in the series, but it is actually for everyone interested in the OTA, it really is one of the most important visualization lessons that we start with, period. Watch it.
Where can we find American Magic?
Right now, we're focusing everybody on Apple TV. Apple TV has this incredible, not to get too technical, but their metadata is just incredible, and it's so beautiful. And then these other streamers are trickling through. The international territories are soon being hit. Every region and country in the world that has English, French, and German. It's going out into, and that's in process now. It takes a little bit of time, but yeah, Apple TV is the place to watch it right now. It's gorgeous, and you know, no matter what kind of television you have, I was watching it on I have a 4K OLED TV, and I just said, this looks like a $10 million, TV series. It really does. And it comes across like that. And the music, we can't forget Greg Dombrowski either.
That was beautiful.
Greg is scored for A24 and Ron Howard with Angels and Demons. And the score just really, people forget that, like, if you're watching a scary movie and you turn off the sound, it's not scary anymore. So the music is there to try to take the vision and guide you toward, what is this trying to make you feel at the moment? So yeah, Apple TV, and it's, you can, if you're a subscriber, you just go on there. If not, you just download the app on your TV, and it's just like any other streaming platform. And then, as I mentioned too, there's a lot of other streaming platforms prepping and coming up. There's a whole thing called an ingestion process, which is a pain in the butt, but it's very technical. But yeah, go to Apple TV and type in American Magic, Magic with a CK at the end, and it'll pop right up, and you'll see Poke's hand out there, and the little wisp there is right before the rose, and that sequence we're talking about is about to form, and his story with Paracelsus. And it's beautiful. Go watch it, go buy it, and watch.
I do hasten to add that it is available on YouTube as well right now. It is not as good, in my opinion, as the Apple, and you have to buy it. You can't rent it for some reason on YouTube at the moment. You have to buy it, and so it is available there. But it is much better on Apple, as Johnny said. The quality is much better. But you can see it on YouTube. Again, there are some ingestion difficulties as well. But in general, everything is coming along, and it's going to be trickling out onto various platforms, and hopefully it'll be on just about every. Eventually, hopefully in about 6 months to a year, it'll be on every single platform. Hopefully much sooner than that. But as Johnny just noted, the ingestion process is a pain in the butt. So, but it is available on Apple TV right now. It's where it really is best viewed. YouTube, a close second, but it is available there. But again, search American Magic with a CK at the end of Magic.
Don't get confused with a novel. A novel called American Magic, MAGIC.
Yeah.
which is a novel. I'm not gonna get politically incorrect, but it's a novel that doesn't have anything to do with magic, but it does have to do with some things that some people might think are magic. Anyway, don't confuse that with this. This is not our novel. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
If we have any viewers out there that are interested in the OTA or joining or finding more about membership, where can they go?
Well, first place, PokeRunyon.com. That's our bookstore. And otherwise, you want to go to our church website. That's chsota.org. That's our website. And that gives you your membership information. We do have an associate member program. And we also have had for the past almost 12 years now, we've had a podcast called the Hermetic Hour, which is most of our philosophy and lessons and everything. And that is on Podbean, BEAN, not Beam. And that's a podcast platform. Anyway, and that's on Thursday nights. every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, the archive of the Hermetic Hour is very extensive. Shout out to Poke's wife and manager and founder of the Hermetic Hour, Lauren Runyon. She has put in unfathomable amounts of work and energy and effort into maintaining the Hermetic Hour and keeping that. It was previously on another platform, now on Podbean. And it's probably, honestly, I would venture to say one of the longest running, maybe the longest running Hermetic podcast, period. It really was started in the very beginning days of Hermeticism. Sorry, not Hermeticism, of podcasts. And it's still going. I think a lot of people don't seem to realize it's still going. And Poke continues to produce material for it. And on Thursdays, you can catch it on Podbean, and you can check through the archives. It's extensive, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes, hour-long or more episodes of Poke talking about some of the most fascinating subjects in esotericism and the occult. Definitely check that out if you can. I remember when I first started with the OTA, my hour-long constitutional walks, I would always listen to the Hermetic Hour while I would go for those walks and sip my coffee. So I encourage everyone else to do the same. If you want to learn more about the OTA, that's a good place. You can't find a better place to go than checking out the Hermetic Hour as well.
I've listened into some of the episodes. They're really good. They get deep into the occult world and knowledge. Good. So one last question before we go. If you guys could ask any of the audience just one question after they finish watching the American Magic movie, what would it be?
I don't quite understand that, but
like after the audience finishes watching American Magic series, is there any questions a question that you would like to ask them, or something you would like to leave them?
What would we ask the audience after they watched our production?
Mm-hmm.
I have one.
All right.
How did it make you feel?
Well, what I would probably ask would be, is there anything that we have presented that offends you, bothers you, and anything that you don't? Are you offended by the notion that if you have any demons in you, they're yours and you're born with them and whatever? Or like my friend Lon Duquette says, we're all born with 12 six-packs of Goetia demons. The idea that the demons are inside you. People don't want to realize that. And we see all these movies about exorcisms, and I'm very suspicious of a lot of this people being possessed and spitting pea soup and levitating off the bed. I'm very suspicious of that because I've been doing this for 50 years and I've never seen anybody. I've seen some strange things and I've experienced some strange things. And I won't say demons can't be strange and can't be unusual, and they certainly can. And we just had last week, we had one of our members receiving his 7th degree, and in the 7th degree of Kratarapoa, you summon your holy guardian angels. And when I say angels, I mean all 3 of them. And this is something a lot of these people don't realize. You have 3 holy guardian angels. One of them is with you all through your lifetimes, and then the other 2 are your astrological demons you're born with. And the 7th degree, that's when you summon the final guardian angel. And you've already summoned him years ago in your third degree, but you summoned him again in your seventh degree. And our candidate who did that, when he summoned his supreme angel, the avermelon incense in the thurible flared up, and the bells down at the monastery started ringing. I mean, really ringing. And so strange things happen. And I want to point out that these things, they're all in your mind. They're in your collective unconscious. That's where these entities live, in your collective unconscious, and they're in the collective unconscious of every human in the whole world. That's where that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I would want to ask people after they've seen our show, if they understand that, and get over this business. Well, at least Marvel Studios understands that, because I remember in the first Doctor Strange movie, the ancient one, the lady,
Tilda Swinton.
Yes. What's her name?
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, Tilda Swinton. Bardo, the black kid that played the villain Margot, he says, "You taught me to vanquish my demons." And the ancient lady turned around to him and said, "No, I didn't. I taught you to live above your demons." So at least Dr. Strange understands this, and he understands it. That's what I would ask people. Do you understand this? And if they do, then we've really accomplished something. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's good. Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we decide to sign off?
No, I think that's pretty good.
I think we've wrapped it up.
As weird phenomena go, though, I do know that we had a lot of weird phenomena on filming of the project. I remember in the first batch of filming that took place back in 2020, was it 21, yeah. I know there were a bunch of mysterious camera issues that were occurring down in the temple. That spooked a bunch of the videographers, which was pretty funny. And apparently I was a paranormal entity on the set when we were filming.
You were. Max the genie. We need Max.
Yeah.
And I would just teleport around the place, but trademark secret, I can't tell you how I do it. But I think that could be everything.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And we look forward to watching American Magic. And I'm going to put all the links to everybody in the description below, so you can find those there. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. This is The Rare Element. The transmission's live and the silence is over. This is The Rare Element. New episodes drop every Thursday. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you are never alone.